Welcome, welcome, and where is my microphone? Where are you? Why are you not showing? Hi, y'all. Come on, why are you not showing? Hi, Miss Debbie Dent. Are you able to hear me? Because my microphone looks like it is acting a.
Yes, I hear you.
Hey, hey, here I
I'm
come.
trying to get somebody else. I'm trying to get somebody else signed in. Hold on just a second.
It is 5:45 where I am, and if y'all in Texas checking in, it's what 4:45 where y'all are. So hi, hello everybody.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh,
Hey,
hello.
Roxana. You remember Roxanne
I
from
recognized
school
that
again?
name as soon as it registered, and I was like, oh, where do I know Roxanne Rentiera from? Where do I, it's what?
And Staccato. She was in
Classmate. I
bed.
knew I wasn't going crazy. I was like, what? Because my brain, Roxana, if you can hear me, my brain has lost a lot of memories, obviously due to a lot of the trauma I experienced. But when I saw your name, I
You
was
have
like,
Zoom
that's a
on your
classmate. I
phone?
know that's my classmate.
You have to have Zoom. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to mute
Okay, take your
myself.
time. Oh my goodness. You remember me, Roxana? Because you know high school been a long time ago. This is so cool. Who else do we have? Miss Ann, hi. We're happy to have you. And if y'all don't mind, I see you guys have already responded to some of the poll question that you see on the screen. I'd also like to know if you don't mind, if you're and if it's safe enough for you to do so, to drop in the chat where you're logging in from. You can drop your zip code or you can drop the city, whichever one is easiest for you to do. I would love to capture that.
All three of us are in Lubbock.
What's up, hometown? What's up, hometown? That's lovely. How do y'all know Debbie? Besides Roxana, I know how Roxana knows it. And how do you know Debbie?
She's my mom. She might not have her microphone on.
Oh, that's your mama?
Yes.
This is even, it's getting better and better. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. We did have, I want to say, almost 10 people registered. Typically, these are very private movie screenings so that we can have a chance to feel comfortable talking. Y'all can totally stay off camera. That is okay. I see that at least one of y'all here today will be learning about ACEs for the first time. So I'm going to be as gentle as I can possibly be with the message. But so happy to have y'all here. It's just like showing up to the movies, except we get to talk about the movie afterwards. That's the one difference. So we'll talk about it before and then a little bit afterwards, and then hopefully see how you guys are feeling after you've heard the message from the movie.
Sounds good. Okay, my husband's joining too.
Yay, bring it in. Bring it in. Your mom is
It
I
says
like
waiting.
Miss Debbie. I like Miss Debbie. You're a hustler, Miss Debbie.
Yeah, it just says waiting. He's getting logged on.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
It told him an invalid meeting ID. Hold on.
Oh, if he didn't register him, well, yes, he did because I saw him register. But if he tries to use yours, it might not let him in because it's
No, it's
unique
on
to each
his.
person. Okay.
Yeah, it's on his phone. Oh, use your Face ID. You gotta sign into your Zoom account.
There we go. Well,
And
this is
then
my other friend, Michael Allen, joining.
you got it.
Are you talking to me?
Oh, sorry, y'all. No, she was talking. Cindy was talking to you, Mom.
Who? I didn't win just now.
Oh no, not right now. A while ago.
Yeah, a while
Wait,
ago.
But
I,
you have to go
so
back to his
sorry.
email and log in.
So Ann, you're Debbie's mom, or Debbie Ann is your daughter? I missed it.
my name is Ann, and Debbie Ann is my daughter.
Oh my, this is getting better and better. I love it. I'm so happy to have you, Miss Ann. I don't know how much Debbie has told you about our high school experience together, but so happy you could be here.
Thank you.
Hi, dear Michael Allen. I see you joined. Take your time, stay off camera if you prefer.
Yeah, I'm moving around, so I'm gonna stay off
No
camera.
problem. No problem. Glad to have your presence.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm having to go through Chrome instead of Google because it's not doing right.
Well, that's fine, Debbie. If you want to mute your microphone for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get just talk. That way you can still get your people in, and we'll be right here on the other side if you need to.
Sounds good.
Michael, somehow I missed it. I didn't know you were I just noticed your registration, so I'm happy you can be here. I feel like you've seen this movie before, but I just want you to know I'm really grateful that you're here tonight. If you have seen the movie before, but if you haven't, I'm glad you're here too for that reason.
Yeah, no, thank you. Actually, I don't remember registering, but I saw it pop on my email, so I'm joining.
Yeah, I don't remember. I was like, why is Michael coming to the party? But I'll have him. So you must have accidentally registered or something. I don't know. It showed you registered on April the 6th.
Oh, girl, I don't know.
I'm happy to have you. I was like, why is Michael coming? I'll take it. Come on in.
If you don't need me, I'll get off. I don't remember registering though.
That's weird because your name was sure on there when I did the update. So I thought that was interesting. But this is just our monthly screening. And like I said, I think you've seen this movie before, but we had about 10 people register. So I think it's a few people that haven't logged in. But definitely, if you have something else on your calendar, feel free to do that. Or you can hang out for the first few minutes. And when the movie comes on, you can sign off and finish your night. But you may have an opportunity to introduce yourself to a few people if you'd like. But
yeah, that'd be great. I'm gonna stay on for a bit. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm going to get us kicked off. Okay, I'm muted there. I don't need that. I don't need that. All right. So, according to my poll, we've got, just because I'm out of respect for y'all's time for being here on time, so I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off. We've got at least one person who's new to the conversation on childhood adversity in this format. So welcome. And again, I'm going to be as gentle as I can with giving this message. Some people have reported that it's hard to hear for the first time, while at the same time, if people start to feel what they like to say in our world called, activated, some people call it triggered, that's a good thing because that is your body waking up to a very important topic that I like to say. If you feel like crying, cry, and it's my party, and I'll cry if I want to, because I feel like those are tears of awareness. And it's a great time to be alive is my second message, because as you hear the information that's going to come up in the screen and also in the movie, the most important thing to remember is we don't know what we don't know. And there's so much infinite information in our world. And so many things that we have been born into that were out of our control. And even though that time has come and gone and passed, being able to get access to this information not only is helpful for those of us who personally experience what you're about to learn, but man, when I tell you, it is a heavy lift for those of us who have bore children and unfortunately might have passed on some of those patterns that we wish we could undo. And again, when I say it's a great time to be alive, it's because I know, as a person who grew up in 79403, there was a lot of things that my caregivers didn't know that they would probably do different if they had had this information. And it gives me space in my heart to have compassion because I know they did the best they could with the tools they had at the time as they raised us. So without further ado, welcome to the conversation on adverse childhood experiences. You're hopefully going to be very enlightened and moved. And most people, when they stay in this conversation, they become attached to it and they want to use it so that they leave the place better than they found it. Meaning, if you are still around children that are under the age of 18, you now will be equipped with language and information that could not only prevent those children from following some of the same patterns, but having this information could also allow you to be that person that you might have needed when you were growing up. So thank y'all for being here. I have been in a relationship with ACEs since 2020. So it ended up being something that was gifted to me. And again, I feel like by the Holy Spirit, none other than the Holy Spirit, because when it was gifted to me in 2020 at 42 years old, I feel like I was in the right place at the right time because it has changed not only my mental health, but also my physical health and my relationships with my mom at the time, and then also the relationship I have with my only daughter. So happy you guys to be here. There's Mr. Eddie Dent checking in. So key point number one that I want to get out the way, as if this was the breaking news section, where when breaking news comes on, they just get right to it. I'm gonna be like the breaking news segment of the 6 o'clock hour and just say, we are only as sick as our secrets. You're gonna understand what I mean by that as you watch the movie. But that's the one thing that we need to walk away hearing, because if you grew up in an environment, or if you were a pattern repeater and went on to encourage youth to keep things secrets, or if somebody told you to keep something a secret that in your mind you knew that it wasn't good for you, the longer we hold on to those secrets from our childhood, the sicker they make us. And I'm abbreviating decades worth of research with these 7 words. I'm abbreviating decades worth of research with 7 words. We're only as sick as our secrets. The second key point before the movie begins is what I believe, based on what I've been exposed to, not just since 2020, but with my own childhood experiences coming out of 79403 Lubbock, Texas, is loud and clear that if we really want to see our children grow up to become the best versions of themselves that they can be, hands down, we have to focus on their parents or their caregivers. If we want to break the cycle of toxic stress, and in parentheses, I'm going to say toxic stress is violence, it's sickness, it's children misbehaving, anything that you can think of that might be stressful, that just seems like it's ongoing. In order to break the cycle of that and to improve what's happening with our children, especially in the zip code where I grew up, because I do see breaking news from there a lot, and it seems like something's always happening. It seems like something's always happening in Lubbock. We have to invest in the lives of the adults who care about them. Again, I'm condensing decades worth of research in this. I'm not going to count those words, but in this one sentence, I'm reducing all of the decades of research that says if we don't focus on the people who left home with ACEs that are now raising children, how do we expect the children's patterns to be any different than the people who are raising them? I don't care what we say. And again, this is science telling us that we are faced with the choice to break, let's say, generational curses, is what we grew up to call it, generational curses. But What the science is telling us, you can call it a curse if you want to, but technically it's your body working as the heavens designed it to work. If you learn a pattern, you're most likely going to repeat it, especially if you learn that pattern early on in childhood. So it's not generational curses. I don't call it that anymore. I actually say this is generational science just repeating itself. So who am I? I am that I am. I consider myself to be a unicorn because I used to like unicorns growing up and I was always fascinated by them. And I happen to be a unicorn that came out of a very adverse childhood. Had every ace that you can, every adversity that you can imagine a child having. I experienced those, even though I didn't have the language for it back then. And in this picture, I don't look like what I've been through. But this is my only daughter when she was in high school and when I was a single mom living in survival mode. This moment was captured during my entrepreneurial days. And I'd like to say I am super grateful because my daughter that you see here in this picture, she unsuccessfully tried to take her life twice before the age of 8. And I'm happy, very, very happy she was unsuccessful with those suicide attempts. We don't know what we don't know is what I started the conversation with at the top of this. And at the time, even with all of the letters behind my first and last name showing that I had went off and left the hood, if you will, and educated myself, guess what? Those books from college, master's degree after master's degree, never told me that I needed to work on my own trauma before I started raising a child, before I started teaching children, and also being a principal of a middle school with hundreds, several hundreds of children who also had some similar adversities that I had growing up. But again, we don't know what we don't know, and I did not have this information, but I do now. So I'm using my platform to educate as many people as I can, right? It's not a magic wand, but it's a start. And now, as a trauma-informed public speaker and child abuse prevention advocate, I try to make this information and language accessible to people that not only look like me, but that might have grown up in situations like I did. I also share this information with people who grew up in privilege, who don't understand what we've been through, and I speak our language and probably think that we live in a whole nother realm. I also share this message with them, even though they're far removed from some of the type of experiences that we've had. And I do that because these adversities don't care what zip code you live in. They don't care how much money you come from. They don't care what your political affiliation is. They don't care what your religious affiliation is. If you are in an environment or home where the caregiver has had their own childhood adversities that have not been addressed, blanket statement, it is possible that you are going to be an at-risk kid. Typically, when we hear the word at-risk kids, we think about Black and brown kids in poverty, but that's not it. I have 7-figure earning friends who have just as many ACEs as I do, but they were able to get help along the way, right? I also have 6-figure, 7-figure earning friends that didn't experience any childhood adversity, had a picket fence childhood growing up, but they also need to know about this information. Why? Because some of them are running businesses, working with people who have ACEs, and they can't understand why some of their employees respond and react to stress the way they do. So even people without ACEs need to know about this information because it is going to dictate how they treat people who might be unaware that their adversity is leading to them to respond to stress in the way that they do. So without further ado, what do we do about it? You're doing it tonight. And at the top of this pyramid, I'm going to call it, is awareness. Right underneath the crown, of course, is our brain. And what we're doing tonight is bringing our brain to further awareness and language to understand what do we mean when we say adverse childhood experiences. I've again condensed decades worth of research down into 10 pillars, which reminds me of that little game we had growing up as kids. I don't know if y'all remember that. It used to be these donuts where you, as a baby, you would stack them. Does anybody remember that? And it was different colors, and you had to stack them just in the right order in order for it to fit on that cone. Did anybody have that or give buy for their kid growing up?
Yes, I remember.
You remember those, Debbie? So under the crown is awareness, and we cannot address what we don't know might be an issue. So coming to this film screening is the start of a new conversation, and probably the start of building healthy relationships with the people in your community, maybe even the people in your house. So thank y'all for being here, and hopefully you'll be able to stay the entire time. But if for some reason you do have to hop off before the movie's over, you're going to hear them talk about what's called antidotes to adversity. Some of the antidotes to adversity are right here on your screen. First of all, starting under the crown, we need to know what adversities are so that we can be mindful of how to prevent them. Thing number one. The second one, before we can even get to those other ones, whether you're an adult or a child, you have to be in a safe environment. Now, that's a deep ocean, right? Because safety can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But the bottom line is children and adults must feel safe where they sleep. They must feel safe where they go to work. Because if they don't feel safe, I'm going to go back to that those two words, toxic stress. Toxic stress will be created in your body. And the more toxic stress that is created in your body in response to not feeling safe, it's going to can accumulate to what we know as mental health issues as well as disease. And again, this is decades worth of research just being condensed down to make it make sense to you. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist, or anywhere in that field to understand that all of our bodies produce what they call toxins in response to our body feeling unsafe. So those two, I think, are the most important ones that we've got to work towards. And then I'm going to skip to the very bottom where the red one is, which is financial security and stability. We would all like more of that, I'm sure. Why I want to say this part is because, again, we don't know what we don't know. And there are some things that we have been born into that have just been completely out of our control, especially if you have a skin color that looks like mine. You might not have had a choice of being brought over here to America to work for somebody else for free and under abuse. So knowing that financial security and stability is at the bottom of the bucket when it comes to safety, when it comes to the antidotes to ACEs, that's something that would need to be addressed as a collective, right? We can't wave a magic wand and just take everybody out of poverty, or we can't wave a magic wand and make the government do right by its people. However, we can start with creating environments where when kids are safe enough and the parents have that awareness, those two things, in a sense, are free to access in most times, because now we can take the control back in our own hand, and now we're raising kids that can create their own financial security and stability when they leave home at 18, instead of having to rely on other systems to provide for us. So again, even though we don't have a magic wand to make it go away now, the more we address childhood adversity, the better chance we give children to create their own stability in adulthood in a financial way, because now they don't have that overactive or stressed response system that may keep them from being able to even hold a job or make wise decisions, if that makes sense. So, be a pattern breaker is what I'm going to finish with before I give Michael a chance to come off the microphone and introduce himself. But be a pattern breaker. That's why we want to bring people to awareness, because it gives us an opportunity to say, hey, I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm going to work on forgiveness of myself, work on my relationships, and then begin to follow some of these steps that are listed here in this pyramid so that my nervous system can start feeling safe again. And then I can live out my best life or whatever is left in my time, if that makes sense. So. Deep breath. without further ado, I'd like to turn the microphone over to my colleague and partner who's here geographically located with me in Orlando. And before I introduce Michael Allen, just to share a little bit about what it is that he does and why he's decided to be a part of this conversation with me, I want to go and looking back at this screen and take your attention to the yellow tube that says healthy relationships. When I started doing this work in 2020, I made a whole bunch of mistakes. And the first mistake that I want to tell everybody that's listening tonight, if you're hearing about this for the first time, sometimes we might be inspired to go tell our entire family about it and maybe even go confront some of the people that might have left us with our own adversities. Maybe we might even have to sit by ourselves thinking, oh my goodness, like I did. I messed up my child. Like I had to sit with that for a while when I first started learning about ACEs. I had to take ownership that my daughter's unsuccessful suicide attempts had a lot to do with my own unhealed wounds. And I had to face that thing in the mirror, mirror, mirror. So because I made the mistake of thinking everybody would be interested in going down this journey, I had to shift some of the relationships that had caused the pain that I was now talking about in my 40s. And so one of the antidotes to ACEs, if your family of origin is not ready to take ownership, if your community is not ready to take ownership, if your community thinks this is just a bunch of wah, wah, Charlie Brown stuff, the next step on the path to healing is to surround yourself around other people who are doing it, even if that means it's not your family origin. Without further ado, I want to introduce Michael Allen, who happens to be in my yellow bucket of healthy relationships and somebody that I met within the last 2 years. And it feels like we've known each other forever. And it gave me hope to say, even if I have to go outside of my high school to make new friends, there are other people out there doing the work, and I don't believe in coincidences. So Michael, why don't you tell people what it is that you do and why you decided to stay involved in the conversation on ACEs. Thank you for being here.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Cindy. And hopefully everyone can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Allen, as you heard Cindy say. I met Cindy a couple of years ago in a similar situation at Grant Avenue. She was doing a documentary presentation, and I was in the audience, and I was spellbound by what she was sharing. At that time, I had not heard of ACEs, at least not in that description or that acronym. But since then, I see that ACEs matter, and it really does. Fits very well with what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do and doing is help prevent and reduce gun violence amongst our youth. Now, that may seem a gigantic task, and it is, which is why partnering with someone like Cindy, who has a background as an educator as well as have learned what ACEs really are and have lived them, it attracted me to go down and meet her. She might remember this. I was like, I have got to meet you. At the time, I was writing a book, and I have finished that book, and I've actually started a second book. So my companies that fit well with ACEs Matter and Cindy are called Surrender Your Hate, as well as Let Life Live. The premise of those is to turn hatred into love, peace and love. Violence is a form of hatred. Violence is a form of an ACE, as Cindy has explained and will explain. So my company, Surrender Your Hate, started when the George Floyd incident occurred. My background as a parent is that I have one son, and he was about to go into the military as a Marine. He is now out 4 years later, 5 years later. And that really triggered me to seek ways to give back and to help society learn how to do the old school, why can't we all just get along? Since moving from Atlanta down to the Orlando area, and again meeting Cindy, I started the second company, which is Let Life Live, as a nonprofit as well. And that evolved in meeting some people from the Moms Demand Action Group about reducing gun violence, from safe storage to legislative actions to help keep the age of access to a gun at an appropriate age, if you can follow that term, appropriate age, 21 plus. And my two books are called, one book is now 31 Days of Surrender, Respecting Life Every Day, which is full of affirmations, biblical references that ask people to, communicate with their children, because as Cindy mentioned, the parent-child connection is vital to our lives, our continuation. And then the second book speaks to, as a little bit in the second half of the first, conflict resolution, de-escalation techniques, set more than mindset, a nonviolent pathway to peace. And I do believe that we can achieve that. So education that seems to care about you is what I'm advocating. And yes, I can do that.
On that. And Debbie, I'm putting you on the spot. I don't think I talked to you about doing this, so feel free to plead the fifth and pass. But would you like to come off the microphone and tell us what brings you here and how you got involved, and anything else you'd like to add?
Sure. My name is Debbie Dent. Y'all guys know me from either school or birth or marriage, all of the above. And I actually have my master's degree in nonprofit management of nonprofit organizations. I served on my local board here for the city council to keep Lubbock beautiful. And when my 2 years on that board were up, Cindy introduced me to ACES a couple of years back now it's been, and asked if I would be interested in spreading awareness for the ACES program here locally in Lubbock for Texas. And so I was very interested in that because, as I said, I'm in nonprofit as it is. And so I'm a helper by nature. I like to help people. And one of the best ways to help people is to help people to help their own kids so that they can grow up to not need people to help them. So that's what brought me here. And that's why I decided to join ACES and help support in my role as raising awareness to the program and inviting people to come watch this wonderful movie.
Oh, Debbie, I'm so happy to have you. Debbie, you have a story about us from high school. Do you feel like sharing that?
Which one? About how everybody was mean to me and you were nice to me?
Yeah. Because
Yes,
she
that's how I
remembered
met
that, and I
Cindy.
was like, I don't remember doing that, but okay.
when we were in, I was still in junior high when I first met Cindy. It was my last year of junior high, and she was already in high school. She was a cheerleader, and I was dating one of the people that was like, what do you call that person? Trainer on the athletics or whatever. So my mom would drop me off to like different area high school games, and we met at a basketball game, and we started talking. And most of the time, when you're like me, like a lighter skinned Black person, darker skinned Black people usually don't accept you or embrace you or be nice to you. So that was usually my experience. But Cindy was one of the first Black people that was nice to me, that was a girl. And so I always remembered that. And so anytime she's ever reached out, I've always been receptive to it because she was nice to me when she didn't have to be, just for no reason. And growing up knowing the adversities that she faced that I know now that I didn't know then was even more reason for me to love her, because you were going through so much yourself and was still nice to other people that you don't know what they could have been going through. So yeah, that's how we ended up meeting. And I always remembered that about her, that she was real nice and receptive and didn't treat me ugly.
Thank you,
You know.
Debbie. Thank you. I really appreciate it. She told me that. I was like, I did that. She was like, yes. So I guess what came up for me is we don't know the impact we're having on people, right? Like we're just going about life. Even at that age when we were in middle school, high school, we don't know the impact that our words and our presence will have on people. It may not have meant nothing to me at the time. Like I couldn't even remember being nice to Debbie. I mean, I knew of Debbie and I assumed I was nice. Like I fought a lot in high school. In middle school, we were just fighters. We were always fighting. I just know Debbie was not one of the people I fought. So I had to share that, but we just don't know when we're making an impact on people. So I'm happy after all these years we are still connected. So thank you for being here. Michael, again, thank you. Michael has dropped his link in the chat if anybody wants to follow his work. Obviously, Lubbock is a place that I know that there are people on the boots on the ground in Lubbock trying to help with interventions with young children and even some of the adults who are walking around wounded. So Michael is available for speaking opportunities to travel online or in person. And he is the subject matter expert when it comes to violence reduction and then strategies to, have a community that is calmer. So I did definitely appreciate Michael being here, knowing the status of my own zip code and, the things that I unfortunately see, posted a lot on Facebook. So if y'all know of anybody looking to bring somebody into Lubbock or to do an online conversation about violence prevention or reduction, we'll take reduction too. Please feel free to reach out to Michael or share his contact information.
Thank you for that. And I have been to Lubbock many, many times. That's
really nice. You know our city, huh?
I do, yes.
Let's move on. So let me tell you a little bit. I'm going to skip a couple of these for time. I'd like to know before we begin, is anything coming up for anybody that you would like to share, or one of the thousands of thoughts that are probably going to go through your mind in between now and the end of the movie? Is there any thought or comment that you would like to make before we get into the film? I'll leave you guys to come off the microphone if you feel comfortable, but don't feel pressured. All righty, there's the wait time. So I do have what is called a TEDx talk on YouTube that you can find if you want to know a little bit about my backstory from Lubbock, Texas. I talk a little bit about it on this YouTube video, and I would appreciate the watch, feedback. Debbie, I appreciate you for sharing. I remember when it first came out, you were one of the first people to share, so I appreciate you for doing that. And that's just a short plug of another way you can continue to build your awareness about ACEs, and it's through my own personal childhood story. So feel free to catch that. And I'll leave the link in the chat if anybody wants to bookmark it that hadn't seen it. We already did that. So the movie's gonna start soon, and I'm gonna switch out this picture, but I always start with, have you ever tried to hug a cactus? I know we have some cactuses in Arizona. I don't know if we had any in Lubbock. But has anybody on the call ever tried to hug a cactus?
No, because you'll get poked.
You would get poked, wouldn't you? Right? Does anybody on the call know what's inside of a cactus?
Water.
It is water. Why do I bring this up? I tell people that sometimes learning about ACEs can feel like running up to a cactus that's all prickly and hugging it at full speed. Ouch. But the truth is, on the inside of that cactus, just like on the inside of human beings, is water. And something else you're going to walk away with is knowing that water will take the shape of its container. I'm going to repeat that. Water takes the shape of its container. Humans, for the most part, are composed of 60% or more of water on the inside of our bodies. And although learning about ACEs can feel prickly in the beginning, when you're thirsty for change, it's worth it. At the end of the day, the cactus represents us coming to awareness so that we can breathe again, so that we can process what we've been feeling and experiencing and be able to help that person that may not even know that they have been carrying this baggage from their childhood this long. So I'm going to ask you to embrace this if it feels like running up to a cactus and hugging it, because water takes the shape of its container, and you're going to see the benefit of why everybody in the world needs to hear this message. So I'm going to encourage you to get comfortable. The movie or the documentary is like 57 minutes long. Don't worry about trying to capture all of the data, but you may want to have something to write with or your text notepad up so you can text a couple of thoughts, because you're probably going to have several thoughts running through your mind as you watch it. I'm going to encourage you to capture a few, because at the end of the 57-minute film, we'll have an opportunity to sit back and say, "Ooh, what was that like? What came up for you? And how can we get more people involved in this conversation? And then what are you going to do now that you've become more aware of what ACEs are?" So I'm going to encourage you to jot down a few of your thoughts. If there's somebody in the film that resonates with you name-wise, jot that down. And then again, if you feel comfortable and safe, we've had people stay and cry, and we've networked and we've hugged, and then people are still friends to this day as a result. But I definitely want to know what comes up for you after the film is over, and how you could use this information and what we could do to get this information available to as many people as possible. So without further ado, we're going to watch a film called Resilience. It's produced several years ago and produced by people who had deep pockets, that when they heard about it, they was like, "Hey, it might not have happened to me, but I'll cut a check so that y'all can produce a documentary so that more people can learn about it." And we just happen to be one of those people that got access to this documentary. And now we share it with people. So you're going to hear them say that when most people learn about ACEs, they want to do something about it. And sometimes they get really wise. So you being here tonight is me hearing about it and deciding I wanted to create a nonprofit. I'm not saying that everybody needs to create a nonprofit, but that was one of the things that I wanted to do with my skill set, because I felt like, in so many words, this could be my burnt offering. This could be my burnt offering to leave a place better than I found it. So, comfortable? Keep your mics off if you don't mind. I'm going to switch computers and turn the film on, and let's go to the party. Y'all ready? Let's do it. Give me maybe 90 seconds to switch screens, and I'll come back to make sure that the microphone check is on and you guys can hear the sound. And other than that, I will see you guys in 57 minutes.
And while she's doing that, I will remind everybody to please stay for the end of the movie so that you can complete a small survey afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all like to think of childhood as this time of joy and innocence. But, I mean, for many of us, it's just not true.
We just pretend all those things don't happen. Our investment in the denial is so high.
Kids are young, they're very and they won't remember anyway. Well,
Was the sound loud enough on that one? Because if not, I'm going to make sure my external speaker, could y'all hear that?
Yeah, so
Ready to bear. Say that again.
Cindy, this mic very well.
It was mic'd very well? Okay, 1 second.
century science is telling us, and we should be going after that like a bear.
My strongest belief, especially as a person that's been working in public health now for more than 25 years, is this information needs to get to everyone, not just us, not just the smart people like us, right? Back in the 1980s, I became interested in the emotional underpinnings of disease and behaviors. How things like depression might affect the incidence of cardiovascular disease. Back then was really controversial, and people actually laughed at us for getting into that kind of work and say, well, you know, Rob, what does this have to do with public health or medicine? And saying, well, are you nuts?
The key message that we have learned is that a totally different kind of history taking needs to be done. My colleagues assured me that I was crazy to think about doing this. What one finds from this is quite important.
Vince Folletti and I, we didn't know it, but we were working in parallel fields.
That's a hard question. I started really getting heavy after the molestation.
I started routinely inquiring